Everyone. This is Mike Zarnowski with Special Olympics Maryland. Thank you for taking some time out this evening to spend with us to talk about softball. We expect about 15 to 20 folks on the line tonight, but we'll go ahead and get started. We'll have with us Alan McCauley, who is the softball venue director, Rick McCauley, who is now the assistant venue director, and we expect Jim Chen to be able to join us at some point as well. He's our head umpire. I think everyone who unless you're a brand new softball coach, you know all the folks. Anna, can you go to the next slide, and I'll talk through the question asking, and then I'll hand it off to Alan. So, as I mentioned to folks who had joined us a little bit earlier, we have a new audio format or function here with our webinars. We just started it back in January, but what it does mean is that we, the way that you can ask a question, everybody comes in muted, and you have two different ways to ask a question or make a comment. One is on your control panel, there is a box that says questions, and you can type in a question there. Anna Albert, who also works the softball venue, and I, at various points, will be monitoring that, and we can then ask the question to the group or to the presenters for you. The other option is you can raise your hand. You should see a little symbol on your control panel that looks like a hand. You just click on that. We'll see a thing on our control panel as the folks that are operating the webinar, and then at an opportune time, we'll ask the presenter to pause, and we'll open up your line, and you can go ahead and ask the question. So that, of course, only works if you put in your PIN number. We have a couple folks who looks like they did not, so we can only unmute your line if you entered your PIN. Otherwise, you're in listen. So that said, Anna, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you and Alan. Or do you want me to touch on this?
You can.
Okay, sure. We started about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and assembled a softball sports management team. These are the folks that are on that team, and we'll be connecting with them throughout the season. We do miss the staff member who had been the lead for softball. That was Nick Anderson, who's moved on to, he's actually working with Junior Achievement now, and is doing great there. So we're in the process of bringing someone new on board, and as soon as we have them, we'll assign a new lead for softball from the staff end. For now, I'll be the contact, myself and Steve Bennett. But that pretty much covers that, but just wanted to recognize these folks and all the support and assistance they've given throughout the year. Okay.
All right, good evening, everybody. Once again, this is Alan, and I'm going to be, once again, venue director for Summer Games softball tournament. My father was nice enough to pass this over to me last year, and so we're going to see if I can continue it on as well as he did. Most of you guys are all returning. I don't think there's any new coaches that I'm aware of, but if there are, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to help you along as much as we absolutely can. Start off with, let's go ahead and begin with the qualifying for the state tournament. As you all know, you must have the required 2 qualifiers, including the mandatory Howard County qualifier at Kiwanis Park. Please be sure that all coaches have finished their certification requirements before the deadline. Once again, that is all coaches that are going to be listed as a coach, not just the head coach of the team. Rosters and age groups. Everybody knows that they must have their full roster submitted. Whether or not you're going to have substitutions or anything like that, you might want to have them added onto the roster to make sure that if something comes up and they have to drop, we'd rather it be that way than to have to submit a last-minute addition and make things a little more complicated for ensuring that your team's set correctly. Please make sure that you have everybody in for the deadline for request for exemptions. And that deadline, as you can see at the bottom, should be submitted no later than April 10th, 2017, to allow for the decision to be made whether or not that exemption will be accepted. Qualifier requirements, as everyone knows, must be following all of the SOMD and ASA rules and regulations, including having these certified umpires, uniforms, medical personnel, and other information such as that. If you need assistance with any of that and you want to set up a qualifier, please immediately get a hold of myself, Mike, or Jim Chin, or Rick, and any of us will be able to assist you in getting in touch with whoever we need to make sure that you can get whatever requirements you need to continue on with this qualifier. As of right now, I believe there's only 2 lined up, so if at all possible, we'd really appreciate any more being able to add on to make sure that we have ample opportunity for everybody to be there.
And folks, we should have said this at the beginning. We will be sending these slides out along with a link to the webinar recording. We'll also include the emails of all those contact individuals when we send that out. Also keep in mind just one other thing, we'd love to have additional large qualifiers, but for that additional competition, that can just be 2 teams scheduling a game, as long as you have an umpire and you're following the rules and such, and you get it sanctioned. That counts as well. I think actually on the next slide it shows the 2 qualifiers that are already scheduled.
All right, so as we can see there, the only qualifier we have so far is the mandatory Howard County qualifier being held on May 21st. And we have the other qualifier down in Lusby is going to be the following weekend on May 27th. So once again, we want to make sure to try to get a minimum of 1 more qualifier for every team must be participating in. So if you need to set that up, please feel free. Now to move on to the coaching certifications for the coaching briefing. For your coach certification, once again, this is to remind everybody that it applies to all coaches now. You must have your sports certification valid. It must be completely current. And if you have not done it in the last 3 years, you will have to have it finished before we can allow you to participate in this year's games. The update, as you can see, will be sent out to make sure that all of your coaches are confirmed that we have. If not, we will be showing, I believe on the next slide, we'll have all of the ways to get onto it. All right, it's not this one, but I know in the future slides it does have the listing about ways to get on with different classes and opportunities to get your requirements in.
Yeah, I think that's at the in the reference section, Alan.
Okay. For the coaches with no previous Special Olympics certification, as you can see, you must complete the Special Olympics requirements in addition to the specific softball requirements for your certifications. And once again, that's all coaches, so if they're going to be a base coach, bench coach, or any of the sort, please make sure that we get these completed. This year we're going to be hosting another Softball Masters Coaches webinar. It will be held on Tuesday the 11th from 7 to 9 p.m. We're trying to figure out a way to get it done in person if at all possible, but if not, it may be another webinar. For this, you need to have at least 5 years of softball coaching. And it's more or less one of those where we can get together, let all of you guys basically communicate with each other, talk about different skill practices, different things like that to help improve the quality of your individual players as well as your team and making sure that you're getting the best out of your players as we possibly can.
Right. Actually, before we go off of that, because we have Bob Golden on, and Bob's a member of the sports management team. But as Alan said, the Master Coaches webinar, we've done this a few times. I'm not sure if we did one for softball last year or not. But it's really a structured conversation helping you problem solve. Bob, I'm going to unmute your phone. If you could, not to put you on the spot, but I will. If you could just share your experience. I know you found it valuable because you've already signed up for this, the one for this year.
Yeah, I did. Can you hear me, Mike?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Yeah, the last year's class was canceled because of lack of participation. But it's a good session, good dialogue, and everybody picks up something they haven't thought of before.
Great. Thanks, Bob.
Sure.
Okay, back to you, Alan.
Yep. All right, so right here, as you can see, we do have lists of the online training that is available. For softball, we only have the 2 listed on there. One is for the Coaching Youth Softball, and if you use your SOMD subsidy, you can get that paid in full. If not, it will cost you the $20. And the other one is for softball technical and tactical skills. For that one, the subsidy gives you a discounted rate, but it does not make it for free.
And when we send out that list of the status of by the 31st, we'll include in there how you can go about getting your the reimbursement or the subsidy to help cover the cost.
All right, now for the events offered. For the skills competition, this is for those athletes who are not quite up to the full team capability yet, but they want to participate in the softball program. They can participate in the individual skills competitions, which include the base running, throwing, hitting, and fielding. We once again will have the traditional slow pitch competition and the unified slow pitch team competition. Those athletes may only participate in one team as always, and if they are participating in the team event for either traditional or unified slow pitch, they may not participate in the individual skills. Rules and reminders. We will be using the 2016 rules, which were issued. Jim has reviewed all the rules and indicated that there are absolutely no changes from the 2014 session, which is the last time that we had any major changes implemented by SOI. So we will continue on using those as they seem to work wonderfully. This slide here is unfortunately one we've had to add in for team management factors. There is a 0 tolerance for any fighting. This, as you can see, will be an immediate disqualification and ejection of the entire team for the tournament, not just any individual. It also may provide additional sanctions that will be discussed through the SOMD Conduct Committee, and it could include any type of suspensions or more, depending on the severity of the incident. This applies to both in-game and out-of-game experiences. So even if they have a problem at the dance or any of the meals, that also could be included in the proper conduct. This is one where the coaches need to make sure that you have control of the team, make sure to set that example and let all of them know. If any of them have disagreements or any problems with anything going on, you will be the ones to handle it, not them. That's what you're there for. You are their representative. So let's just make sure that we get that kind of reiterated to all of our athletes so we don't have any kind of experiences or or problems at this year's softball venue.
And just to reiterate
General
one end of that, Alan, just one more thing. In terms of arguing with the officials and talking back and so on down the line, that applies to the athletes and partners, also applies to coaches. I'm sure no one on the call has been in this situation. I know sometimes calls can be frustrating and such. There are two methods that you have to address that, neither of which is yelling at the official. You can either speak to the venue manager if you think that there's a persistent situation or challenge and they can take a look at it, or you can use the protest process. But anybody here who, I don't know if anybody on the call has ever been an official, been a referee. I haven't refereed or umpired softball games, but I'm a track official and I'm a soccer official, a soccer referee. You do your best, you're going to miss a couple calls. Everybody's human, and those folks are out there volunteering their time. So, not saying there are never challenges or errors made, but the solution is definitely not yelling and screaming at the officials. Use the proper processes to address that. It's sad to say, in basketball this season, we had to address this fighting situation directly because of an incident. And it's unfortunate in terms of the circumstances and the consequences for the athletes involved. So want to be proactive and make sure everybody's aware of this and applying it, and again, giving that good, solid example for your athletes and your family members, quite frankly, for that matter too. So thanks. Back to you, Alan.
Sure. General rules competition. As always, please, there is no profanity anywhere at the fields, as it goes along with the setting a good example for all of our athletes. If they see anybody out there using the profanity, they're going to think it's okay and want to use it themselves. As always, the 5-run max inning is no longer in effect. The batters will start with the 0-0 count again. No courtesy fouls. Run-ahead rule is in effect, as always. 15 runs after 4, 12 runs after 5. Any of the base coaches are not allowed to touch the runners. They must be running of their own accord, or else they will be declared out. And the coaches, please, once again, you're reminded, if you're a base coach, you must stay within the coach's box boundaries. Courtesy runners. If it's a health issue and they earn it on their own, you're allowed to substitute. A courtesy runner is not a substitution. And if you have any questions on that, please immediately address it to the umpire. They will be able to make sure that you understand that correctly. For the catchers, of course, if they make it to second base with 2 outs, we want to go ahead and bring them in so they can begin getting their gear on, to have them prepared for the change of inning. We want to make sure that this does not cause any delay of games. We want to keep the games moving, as we are on that strict 75-minute time limit. For unified, of course, it must be athlete for athlete, partner for partner. And the exemption is strictly on medical or injury substitutions. With all hopes, we don't have to deal with any of that, as hopefully all teams will have the subsequent amount of substitution players available, because if we have any of our athletes that are dealing with a injury and medical problem, we'd rather them not be playing in the game at all. During the game, regulation games are 7 innings.
Ahead. Just a reminder to folks, because surprisingly we haven't gotten any questions yet. If you have a question, you can type it into the question box, or you can raise your hand, and we'll, at a pause, we'll unmute your line, and you can go ahead and ask your question. But please feel free to use those tools available to you. Thanks. Back to you, Alan.
All right. Duration of the game, 7 innings. Shall last no longer than the 1 hour and 30 minutes, as we said. Time allotments, as unfortunately we've had to deal with in the past due to rain or anything like that. If it has to be cut short, unfortunately, that's what we have to deal with. But we're hoping to have another beautiful year where we don't have any issues for that. Time limit in the middle of the game, in the middle of an inning, of course, we'll complete that inning. However, we'll start no new innings. Completed innings will be played until the second team at bats will score the number of required runs, unless they are already in the lead, and therefore it will just end at that half of an inning. Any appeals? Coach or player must request it from an umpire, and they do not make the decision until an official appeal has been made. Uniforms. As always, everybody does a great job of having their full team in the uniforms. If they have any players that are not in uniform, that player will not be allowed to play. Please ensure that all of the proper gear is being used. For the catchers especially, make sure they have their helmet and mask with throat protector, chest protector, and shin guards are recommended but not required. No metal cleats, of course. Must be the soft rubber cleats for any of those. Physical restrictions are allowed to use the smaller Little League bats. Just please make the umpire aware before the game begins if that is the case. And none of the ASA non-approved bats will be allowed. The umpires will be going through at the beginning of each game to check all of the bats out to be used in a game. That way they are verified that the umpire has checked them and they are good.
Bob has a question.
The restricted white ball will once...
Just a moment. Oh, yes, Mike, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Bob, Bob will take care of you that offline. Actually, when we get to the registration process. Okay.
The restricted flight ball will once again be used with the 52-300 core balls. As always, the secondary scoring plate will be used. The line will be drawn, and as well as the commitment lines. Base runner will be forced out if the catcher is on the standard home plate, and the ball will get there before the runner crosses the safety home plate. As always, there's the diagram of how the field will be prepared. I'm sure we're all more than aware of that one. Pre-competition webinar will be on Tuesday, May 30th from 8 till 9 p.m. And we're hoping if we get all the qualifiers completed, we will have all of the final divisioning done by June 1st. If we have any emergency changes that need to be made, we will have them out as soon as we absolutely are able to get everything completed.
So, Anna, I'm going to go ahead and change to be the presenter.
Absolutely.
Okay, and you can take over monitoring. And again, I'll answer Bob's question or address that as we're going through. And just to confirm, you can see the title slide for registration forms and procedures, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I think you've all seen this slide many, many times, but just a friendly reminder that no one can participate in any manner in Special Olympics without an up-to-date medical or volunteer application. And again, absolutely no exceptions to that policy. Quite honestly, if you're trying to be nice and make an exception, you are potentially making yourself personally liable for any injury or anything that might happen. I'm not sure about you. I love my athletes. I still coach. I think you all know. I'm not putting my my entire mortgage or home and livelihood on the line for that. I'm sure you would not either. They just need to get their medical in or their volunteer application in. So here's the deadlines, and Bob's question was related to this. So there are 4 different deadlines, actually 3 that are relevant for softball. The last one is really only applies to athletics and swimming. No real changes here, but it's worth walking through what happens or what needs to happen at each of these deadlines. So the first, and I should also point out that the dates that are on there are the dates by which the information needs to either be in GMS, which is our computer system, or the forms need to be at Special Olympics headquarters. As is noted down at the bottom of the table, that all needs to get submitted by someone in your area. There's someone designated or several someones designated in your area to handle getting stuff into GMS and submitting medicals and so on. The submitting of the medicals and volunteer forms and such have to follow or adhere to HIPAA regulations, and so it's not just something anybody can send in to us. But anyway, since they need to do that, talk to them now to find out when they need the information from you so that they can get it into the system by the deadline. It is extremely unreasonable to just suddenly drop, say, the training roster on your the person who handles GMS for you on April 20th or even April 19th and assume that he or she has time to do it right then and there. Of course, if you've arranged that ahead of time with them, that's fine. But be fair to those folks. So if you take nothing else away, talk to your GMS person and talk to the person who submits your medicals and volunteer forms in the next 2 days. So anyway, the training registration deadline, that's April 20th, getting it all in to our system. That's by when you need to have all of everybody who's participating in your softball training program entered into GMS, all of your athletes, your unified partners, coaches, other volunteers, etc. And it determines who is potentially eligible to then participate in summer games. I say potentially because there's other things that have to happen. They have to get forms in, or they have to have their forms in already, and they need to have their competition registrations handled and such. But if they're not in and registered as training by the 20th, then they will not be eligible for summer games. Should also point out, folks can join your program after that as well. They just also would not be eligible for summer games. Also, by that 20th date, cheerleading and softball teams rosters and assessments are due at that point. The softball assessments, and Alan, I need to check with or toss to you. Were you guys doing something different with the assessments this year, or sticking to the same thing that we used last year?
I believe we're going to use the same as we did last year.
Okay, so we'll send all that out to folks in advance. I should also say that in some cases, the question Bob had was related to one of the deadlines in a kind of a unique situation he's dealing with there. In some cases, I can't promise always, but in some cases, we may be able to make an adjustment or give you an extra few days on in some situations. If that's something that you need, have your area director contact me, since we don't have a sport person for softball right now. But it needs to come from your area director to request a few extra days or something like that. And if it's possible for us to do it, we will. Can't promise that's the case at all times. So hopefully, Bob, that answers your question and helps you out. Then again, on May 4th, that's the deadline by which we need to have all forms in for everybody on your team, and all of those forms need to be valid through summer games, through June the 11th. Again, nothing new here. For every athlete, their medical needs to be in and through June 11th. For partners, coaches, volunteers, they need to have both their volunteer application and their protective behaviors valid through June 11th. And we'll show you, we have a slide here as a reminder of how to do the protective behaviors. The concussion for coaches, and this is all coaches, as Alan listed earlier, if they're a base coach, if they're a batting coach, if they're whatever type of coach, that counts. They need to have a concussion certification as well. That's been in place for a while, and so that should be no surprise to anybody. And again, there's a slide here in a minute on how to get through to doing that. And then all coaches need to have your sports certification handled for softball in this case.
He calls on the game sheet. He just said something about it.
Yeah, there's a couple new ones, and I gave you
right now. Hopefully that muted everybody. Anyway, so those all need to be in by May 4th. Then the competition registration deadline, and for you, for softball, this really, for the most part, only applies to your skills athletes, because we'll take your rosters that you're turning in back on April 20th, and we at headquarters will go ahead and put them into the system. We found it's a little extra work on our part, but we found by us taking rosters, and this is across all team sports we do this, with us putting them in, getting them in, making sure they're entered properly, and such, it solves some problems with that we've had in the past with rosters changing. So your teams, their competition registration is already done by them, but for any of your skills athletes, they need to be entered into their skills event and their entry score added, put in from that. As well, if there are any volunteers or coaches or whomever who were brought in, who are registered as training but aren't attending or aren't part of your delegation for summer games, they need to be deleted as well by the 22nd. Otherwise, your area could get charged a registration fee for those individuals. And then the last deadline there really doesn't apply to softball. It only applies to those two sports. I'm not going to go through every slide here. There's a lot here for reference. This just reminds you to talk to your folks ahead of time. The one note on the side here is that there are now new medical forms and new volunteer forms. That does not mean that every athlete needs to get a brand new medical form or a brand new volunteer form. Of course, if they're expiring or have expired, they do. If they have their old form in and it's still valid, it still works. But any new forms that come in need to use these new versions. There are copies of them or images of them here in the deck. I'll flash through to them when we finish this section. Those can be downloaded from the from MySOMD, and of course your area has access to that as well. Let's see. Coach requirements, as a reminder, as a coach, you need to have your Class A, that's your standard volunteer application, done, and associated background screening. You need to have your protective behavior screening, your online concussion, and your coach sport certification specific to your sport. All of those above are valid for 3 years. And then as a reminder, unified partners and all volunteers need to complete and maintain both the volunteer screening and the protective behavior screening in order to volunteer for Special Olympics. This is a slide for concussion training. I'm not going to go through the detail other than to point out we highly recommend two things. One, we are limited to what we can accept for concussion training. That's coming from Special Olympics International, so I know other folks have other training courses. These are the only two that we accept. One is the CDC, Centers for Disease Control. It's a pretty good course. It takes about 30 minutes. It's also available on a CD-ROM that we've given to all, at least one copy to each area. We can give more copies if need be, and there's a process for using that if you want to. The other option is the NFHS, National Federation of High School Sports, which actually is an adaptation of the CDC stuff anyway, but you can do that if you want. And then just send in, you create a PDF certificate at the end and just send that in and we'll get your records updated. And again, by that March 31st date, we'll send out to you the listings and include with that what the status is for these forms. The protective behaviors, similar thing. I'm sorry, I should have said the concussion, it's free. It doesn't cost you a penny. Just takes your 30 minutes of your time to take care of that, and just need to do that every 3 years. Similarly, Protected Behaviors is free. In essence, everybody except athletes who's involved with Special Olympics needs to take the Protected Behaviors certification. It takes about 10 minutes. It's pretty quick and pretty simple. In theory, we discovered this over the last month or two. In theory, we should, when you complete it, the course, acknowledgement that you've done it, that you've completed it, should come to us. That doesn't seem to be working completely. So what we are asking you to do, if you would please, when you complete it, is you'll get an acknowledgement from them. Just forward that on to Rachel Maddock at that email address there, and she'll forward it and use that to update your records. It's just a safety precaution. I would say close to, I wouldn't say more than 3 to 5% of folks have had stuff not go through. We think it's something they're not clicking in the process. But to be safe, just go ahead and do that. It's pretty simple. You're good to go. So those are questions. I did want to go through. So the reference slides, I'm not going to go through all of these. Please do use them as a reference and look for them. But here is the new medical form. There's 4 pages. There's 2 pages that the athlete and or the athlete's family or caregiver fills out. This page which has contact information, the health history, and the second page, which has additional health history in terms of challenges, medication, so on down the line. Should also point out this is a fillable PDF file as well. Well, this is a slide, but you can download from MySOMD as a fillable PDF file. The doctor's page that or the medical professional needs to fill out is here. It's highlighted in blue. It's all just on the one page. This page 4 is a referral form. I have yet to see anybody fill one of these out. This is only used if the doctor who's examining the athlete says, before I sign off and say, yes, this athlete is okay to participate in sports, I want someone else to take a look at something. That's how this is used. But I haven't seen that happen yet, but just be aware that there's a possibility that it could. And then the athlete, the releases, it's now, instead of having 3 different places that the athlete or the family member needs to sign, it's just the one. And similarly for the volunteers, we've simplified the form. It's now down to 2 pages instead of 3. Also, in case word hadn't gotten to you yet, completing or providing your Social Security number is optional. It is not required, but there's a space there for it. And the release signature is just one that you need to do here as well. If the person, if the coach or the volunteer or unified partner is a minor, is under the age of 18, they need to complete this 2-page form, and in addition, they need to complete the volunteer, the student minor reference form. So it's actually, they have a 3rd page there that they need to complete. The rest of the stuff in here you should be familiar with. So that said, actually I said at the very end. So that just goes a little bit more into sports certification. Actually repeats a couple slides there. Oh, I'm sorry. The one thing I did want to point out here with coach certification, Special Olympics can provide good training, and we have some different options there. We are certainly not the be-all and end-all, and the only ones that can provide training. We, with a little bit of information, will typically accept the training provided by, at least by the national governing body, or NFHS if you go to any of their seminars or their online courses or their live classes. So if there's something that you've taken recently or you want to take from another organization, that's certainly possible that it would count to renew your certification. We'll need some information about it. And the reason I say that as well is for some sports, the national governing body has taken to having training delivered in like 3-minute web videos. One of those, I'm sorry, would not, even no matter how much information they cram into 3 minutes, it's probably not something we're going to accept as a renewal for 3 years. But depending upon other things that they have and the contents I covered, we certainly would consider that. So, yeah. So again, if you have any questions, you can either type it into the control panel or raise a hand. And Anna, do we have any? Oh, Anna, I think when I muted everybody, I muted you as well. Sending you your pin, Anna. And while that's going on, I'll look at the question panel. It looks like Bob has another question asking what a volunteer is eligible to do. There you go, Anna. It looks like you're back.
Yep, I'm back. Yeah, I believe you did mute us when you muted everyone, and I also believe I heard Jim Chen come into the webinar, I believe. Jim, are you there? Okay. Yes, there was a general question, Mike. It was asked if you could detail what a volunteer is eligible to do.
Actually, can we unmute Bob and get a little clarification? I'm not sure.
So, Mike, at a practice, I've got a number of coaches, with various levels of certifications, but we also have volunteers. So, are the volunteers allowed to participate in a practice? To what extent? What are they not allowed to do? And at state games, are they going to be not allowed to take the field or be in the dugout at any time?
State games isn't easy to answer. They will not be credentialed as a coach, and therefore, yes, they will not be allowed in the dugout or on the field.
Okay.
If it's somebody that you want in the dugout or on the field, and this is something that applies to all sports, so not just softball. If you want them to have any access other than the spectator stands, or if they're staying overnight and they're credentialed with your delegation for that, they need to get registered as a coach and meet the coach requirements. During practice, it's a little bit more of a gray area. The rule that, or the general guideline, I would say, is if they're responsible for the athlete, and in terms of taking a strong leadership position, then they should probably be counted as a coach. I mean, I can't sit here and delineate if they're leading the instruction for the athletes. Maybe this helps. If they're leading the instruction for the athletes, then they're probably a coach. If the coach comes, talks the athletes through some throwing form or fielding drill, and then there's somebody else who just is with the athletes then after that and is monitoring them as they go through the drill, that person's probably more of a volunteer than a coach. So I don't know whether, I wish I could give you a cleaner answer than that.
Is a volunteer permitted to pitch batting practice, for example?
Yes, because they would need to be a Class A volunteer.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think Bob realizes that it's that definition of a coach, which would then require concussion certification as well as the coach training. Bob, you always ask such interesting and challenging questions. Probably.
Let me ask it this way, Bob. If they're going to be just pitching batting practice, are they giving instruction while they're pitching, or are they just lobbing the ball in and letting the other coaches do the work?
Yeah, that's hard to say. And it's not just pitching batting practice. It's soft toss. It's, it could be instruction, how to hit, tips, that type of thing.
Exactly. And to me, if they're doing those types of situations, that sounds more that they're being in a coach's standpoint than just somebody out there tossing the ball for you.
So basically, just about the entire staff needs to go through the full certification process.
Yeah, and if there's a special situation where, like, you have, we can talk offline and see.
Yeah, no, I'm not looking for anything special. I'm just trying to understand what the requirements
No,
are.
I realize that, and I hope you take when I say you ask such challenging questions. It's good. They're great questions. Not.
Yeah.
I don't mean that in any way negative. It's you're making us think of things that we've been able to avoid until now. So yeah, unfortunately, it's not for some other sports like for track or swimming. If they're running a stopwatch or measuring a jump or something, no, they're really a volunteer. If they're it's a little cleaner, I think, than perhaps it is for a team sport. A lot of that's going to come into a judgment call. It certainly would not hurt to have everybody go through and do that. But yeah, let's talk offline if we need to. I need to think. It's a really good question. I don't know that I have a good answer beyond what I've been able to say.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. Thanks for. I mean it. Thank you for asking that type of thing. That's why we want you on the sports management team to make sure we're thinking through that stuff.
I wasn't trying to stump you. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. No, it's good. It's great. Okay. Any other questions? And I would say anybody who it doesn't have to be just on forms and such, but any question on any of this stuff, anything that Alan's covered. I don't know. I'm looking here, Anna. I don't see Jim listed on here, at least as far as joining the webinar. So
no, I don't think he made it in time, Mike.
Oh, okay. That's fine. But anybody else, if you just raise your hand or type in a question, as you can see with the questions with Bob and such, it's very easy to unmute you and have you ask the question.
And if you're even the least bit unsure, please ask. We'd rather the clarifications now than complications later.
Right. Good point. Okay. Going once? Going twice? Okay. Well, thank you very much, folks. We appreciate you taking the time tonight to spend about 45 minutes with us. As Alan said, yeah, please do ask. Well, when we send the slides and the assessment form and such out to you and the recording, we'll include the contact information for folks. And feel free to ask at that time. Again, Alan, or I'm not sure if Rick's joined us in the interim, but any closing thoughts?
No, sir. We just hope to have another great year and everything goes smoothly. And please let Mother Nature finally get over her bipolar disorder so we can get the weather straight for all of our fun games.
Yeah. So, okay, folks. Thanks so much. We'll see you throughout the season. Have a great rest of your
Mike, can you stay on the line?
Yes.